Hello, and welcome back to Sifting for Soul. This is part 2 of the wobbles. In the first part, I explained to you getting diagnosed with the wobbles and discovering the symptoms and how unfun that was. In this part, I give you the conclusion, including getting my balance back and not being wobbly anymore, or at least mostly wobbly anymore. And then don't worry, I promise I'm releasing more videos on actual photography concepts this week, so stay with me. As always, let's get it. I had no idea how much worse it was going to get though. So I went back to work, and then I tried to just do sort of like minimum movement things. So that was like at my desk, I have 2 monitors, and even just sort of looking from one monitor to the other monitor, like I would start feeling the room spinning. And then my lead and my colleagues all sit around me, and so within conversations, I would turn to have a conversation, and then at a couple points I was like, I can't look at you because I'm getting, like, I feel like I'm going to fall over just by looking at people. And then I found myself sort of holding onto my desk, and I couldn't even look in my bag to get anything. So like any head movement was causing the world to spin. It wasn't the violent sensation, it was just causing everything to feel like it was moving, and it became really, really difficult to just do anything. And so I stopped going to work and basically stayed in bed, which sounds like a restful break. Unfortunately, when I would change positions in bed, or even when I went to get out of bed or get into bed, that would trigger the violent, flipped over, thrown off the planet sensation, which would make me grab anything around me, and that was not nice. At the worst of it, there were a few days that were so awful that I couldn't get out of bed or off the floor or wherever I had fallen. I was sort of stuck there. And so what would happen was I would sit up. So one of the sensations was sort of the violent on the back, spin me around sensation. That was the worst. By far, that was the one that was the most disorienting. You're supposed to be able to focus on something, and if you can focus on that thing, it's supposed to make it less intense. When that would happen, I would have to close my eyes and hold on to anything around me because it was so violent that if I opened my eyes, I think I probably would have vomited because the world was moving so violently. So there was that one, but there was another sensation where I often felt pulled down and to the right. Like when I would sit, I felt like something was pulling on my shoulders to pull me down and make me fall to the right. And that feeling became more pronounced often after I would lay down, and if I had like the violent whirlies, the violent wobbles, then I would sit up, and then the sensation would like pull me right back down. So I was basically like, I would sit up and then I would just sort of fall over. But it was always a dead weight fall where I was almost like passing out because I felt like I had no muscle control, and I would just fall over. And so there was a couple times where I was like, I can't get out of bed. And thankfully to my lovely SO, there were times where I wasn't unable to get out of bed by myself. There were other times when I got out of bed and I had to learn to like basically stop, make a movement and stop and wait for things to settle, and then make a movement and stop and wait. So one day I was going to just try to get dressed and try to move around a little bit. So I sat up and then had the wobbles, and then just sort of held onto the edge of the bed until that settled. And then I stood up and I noticed that I had left like underwear or socks on the floor or something, and I wanted to just clean up a little bit. So I bent down to pick it up, and then the whirlies. And then I was like, ah, shit. And so then I fell over. And I fell over, and so I basically I don't know what everyone else does, but I was just trying to find a position to make like the world stop moving. And usually that position was lay on your back and just grab things. And so I would do that. And then I tried to get up, but just kept like a weevil. Like it felt like a drunk baby. Like you sit up and you just fall right back over. And so I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't get off the floor. So there were a lot of points in my life in which I needed someone to help me get up, get off the floor. And it feels really, you really reevaluate, like, first of all, you appreciate the people that are in your life. I try to always appreciate the people that are in my life because I certainly don't make that easy, but you really appreciate, I mean, with the knowledge of I could not get out of bed if this person was not here to help me. I couldn't get off the floor if this person wasn't here to help me. If you remember that old commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up with the life alert thing, I was that old lady, and I'm not an old lady, and I'm a pretty tough, strong guy. I don't mean tough like D-bag tough, but I mean like I've had a little bit of pain, and so pain doesn't scare me, and I've been hit by cars and hit by women and hit by you name it. And so like I'm not afraid of being hurt. I am not, yeah. So the notion that a little crystal body in my ear could prevent me from getting off the floor wasn't really something I could process. In any case, a friend at work said something to me because I was like, oh, this is gonna be a couple of days of misery and I'll be fine. A friend of mine at work, on one of the days that I went in early on, in fact, after a week, I tried to go back to work and sort of more of the same. It wasn't letting up. And then a friend of mine said, you know, I've had people, or he knew people who were suffering with something similar, and it took them 2 weeks before they were able to do anything. And I was like, 2 weeks? And note, I was already a week in. I was like, well, you know, I don't want to take 2 weeks. Sure enough, it took me like 2.5 weeks. Finally, I go to the doctor, and he does the maneuver. So the maneuver, again, triggers my bullshit alarm, because he's like, all right, here's what you're gonna do, Brandon. You're gonna lay on this operating table, so like to the edge with your butts on the edge of it. He's like, okay, fold your arms, and then like I'm actually gonna demonstrate the maneuver, because you can re-trigger the floating crystal bodies and go through that experience again. And I don't know if you're picking up on this. Was not fun is the thing that I want to convey to you. So not going to demonstrate the maneuver. You can Google it yourself. But you basically like turn your head, and then they lean it back, and then they lean you back like you're being baptized. And I'm like, this is total bullshit. So he did it to both sides, and it was supposed to trigger the violent whirling, which it did not. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? Like, is that, he's like, well, basically you're getting better at it anyway. And this is a catalyst to improve the symptoms, but it doesn't actually make it go away. It really sort of improves the symptom, like it catalyzes the healing process. And so then after that, I thought I was better. And I went back to work, and then I noticed I had a lot of trouble still looking down. I had a lot of trouble still looking up. I didn't have much of the violent wobbles, which was the biggest relief, but I still felt really unsteady on my feet. And so I was reluctant to try the maneuver because I didn't want to trigger it again. And then I'm like, well, if it's catalysis, then it's just going to get better on its own, and I should suck it up. I should also note one important factor. The MRI was clear, thankfully. So after the MRI was clear, then I wasn't worried about any like brain tumor stuff or anything like that. So then it was really just sort of back in suck it up mode. Any case, so first day I go back to work and left early because I was having a hard time looking up, looking down, still having a hard time moving my head, and so quite frustrated. And then it makes you rethink life, because I'm like, what kind of life can you have if you can't move your head that much? And so at the time before the results of the MRI I was in, I was like, you know, what if this is my life? What if this is like how I have to live? And what do I do? Like, how do I do it? Do I do my job? Do I do a different job? So there was a lot of like existential soul searching, what am I gonna do kind of stuff. I wasn't particularly worried, but I needed a new plan. We're gonna need a bigger boat. Babble, 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 long story. So I went back to work after 2 weeks off, and then the first day was kind of rough. And then my SO again asked the best, like, she's like, let's do the maneuver. And I'm like, all right, cool. Actually, that's not true at all. I was like, no, don't touch me. I was concerned about re-triggering things, making it worse. I was also concerned that I'm too heavy, that she's gonna drop me. And then I didn't want to experience the violent whirlies. Anyway, the maneuver. What's the maneuver? So the doctor, when he had me do the maneuver, he had me cross my arms, and I started laughing, and I said, are you doing that so I don't grab you? And he said, yes. So then I was laughing because I felt bad for, I think I probably convinced him that he should stop moving my leg during the first experience when I grabbed him. I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, so my SO did the maneuver, and this time it did trigger the event, and it was awful, like just awful. And it's awful because like you're basically, you can't grab anything. And so while your arms are folded, you're just being sort of violently whipped around, and the only thing that you can use to stabilize yourself, you can't use, and somebody has your head in breakneck position. So nothing about that is nice, but it helped. I don't think I was particularly receptive to the notion of help, because at the time, I think what I said to her was, don't ever do that to me again. And I know you're trying to help me, but don't touch me. Something like that, which was not very kind. I apologized later, but it just does not feel nice. And then the next day, I was so wobbly. Like, I was so wobbly. I felt like I couldn't walk straight. And so I was just sort of straight, and I couldn't get to my destination because I kept veering off the other direction this time. I should also note that after she did the first direction, like you're supposed to do one side and then the other side, that I couldn't take the other side. I was like, no, like, don't do the other side. Let's just stop there, and let's just say, you know, let's give it a shot. Let's say we gave it the old college try, and please don't do that again. And so it's probably my own fault for not doing the other side, but I was super wobbly on one side. Like everything veered to the left now. And then the day after that, it was better. So I basically missed almost 3 weeks of work behind this. And that during that time, I did, on days that were a little bit better, I did take a few pictures, but not very many. And then it wasn't until the very end of it, when I went back to work, that I actually felt like I was better and human. And so this is recent. So this, so I finally started feeling like myself. What day is it? It is Sunday. So I finally started feeling like myself 3 days ago, and haven't had any wobbles today. Had a little bit of wobbles yesterday getting out of a bath, but back to myself today. So that is where I've been. But I do have a huge cache of videos that I'm going to release. I hope you enjoy them. You should see videos on editing. I have a couple videos on editing. I have videos from when I was in Germany. I have videos from before that when I went to St. Paul's, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a ton of videos to share with you. I'll finish editing them now that I can look at a screen again, and we'll get you all caught up. The important thing that I want to convey to you is take your health seriously and go to the doctor and get things checked out, and describe your symptoms effectively. Keep some notes on what's happening to you, what time of day it is, what it feels like. And my quip about being a man and dying early because I don't go to the doctor, go to the doctor. An ounce of prevention is worth whatever the rest of the saying is, but you get the idea. I'm glad I went to the doctor. Dizziness is a symptom of some really serious stuff, including different brain tumors. So like, get these things checked out, and hopefully you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, hopefully you get insurance or you live in a place in which medical care is affordable. These are all big deals. It's important. I'm still figuring it out. I hope you are too. Be well.